General election ballot despite an attempt to block her candidacy by an ally of current Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
Mayoral candidate being challenged.
Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed supermayor of Dalton, has been arrested following an extensive FBI raid that uncovered years of corruption, abuse of power, and extravagant spending. Once seen as a rising political figure, Henyard now faces 22 federal charges, including misappropriation of funds and financial concealment. While Dalton teetered on the edge of bankruptcy, she lived a life of excess, using taxpayer money to fund luxury shopping sprees, high-end travel, and personal indulgences. Her reckless financial mismanagement left the town struggling, with residents bearing the consequences of her lavish lifestyle. The tipping point came when the FBI, after a thorough investigation, executed multiple subpoenas, confirming long-standing suspicions of her misconduct. This is not her first brush with the law. She previously had a conviction for trespassing, but her current charges are far more severe and could lead to a prison sentence of up to 25 years. One of the most shocking revelations includes her use of taxpayer funds for personal shopping, such as a $7,700 spree at Target, Walgreens, and Wayfair on September 1st, 2023. While hard-working Dalton residents faced financial hardship, Henyard drained the town's resources for her personal benefit. She also misused police officers as errand runners and personal security, further exploiting her position. Her excessive travel expenses alone cost Dalton over $122,000, depleting a once healthy $5.6 million surplus and leaving behind a staggering $36 million deficit. Perhaps the most egregious example of her wasteful spending was a single driveway project that cost the town $561,000 money that could have been used for critical community improvements. Instead of focusing on public service, Henyard prioritized maintaining her image and indulging in a life of luxury, using taxpayer dollars to hire professional hair and makeup teams and enjoy extravagant, publicly funded motorcades. Her actions alienated both residents and municipal employees, many of whom watched helplessly as Dalton crumbled under her leadership. Public funds meant for essential services were instead funneled into her personal desires, causing the town's infrastructure and community programs to deteriorate. The financial crisis she created was so severe that it wasn't until a former Entrade police chief blew the whistle that the full extent of her corruption was exposed. The revelations of her misconduct not only highlight gross mismanagement, but also a blatant disregard for the very people who elected her. Once seen as untouchable, Henyard's empire of excess has now collapsed, leaving the town to pick up the xiao pieces. With her now in custody, Dalton residents must face the aftermath of her actions' financial devastation, crumbling trust in local government, and an uncertain path to recovery. The damage caused by Henyard's tenure may leave lasting scars on Dalton, with trust in local government severely shaken. As legal proceedings unfold, residents can only hope for justice and accountability, praying their town can rebuild and that such a catastrophic failure of leadership will never be repeated. Signs of Dalton's decline are evident. Doors are locked, and a sign on one government building simply states it is closed, with no indication of when it might reopen. Recent revelations about Mayor Tiffany Henyard's time in office paint a disturbing picture of a leader consumed by self-interest, financial recklessness, and blatant misuse of taxpayer funds. Even after having her credit card privileges revoked, Henyard managed to organize a lavish $555,000 party for the town, featuring high-profile performers such as Whale and Jay Holiday. Whale was paid $30,000 for a 30-minute performance, while Jay Holiday received $20,000 for his set. Additional expenses included $36,000 for a sound system, staff, and comedians, as well as $6,600 for rented bouncy houses. Despite the extravagant spending, the event drew only about 70 attendees, sparking outrage from community members. Outspoken resident Jennifer Roberts condemned the blatant misappropriation of taxpayer funds, while former trustee Val Stubbs dismissed the event as nothing more than a self-indulgent spectacle at the public's expense. Henyard's extravagant event was nothing more than a wasteful self-promotion scheme, further fueling public outrage and deepening the mistrust of both residents and federal investigators. As scrutiny over her actions grows, taxpayers and authorities continue to monitor her every move. However, the most significant development in the case came when Henyard's former ally and right-hand woman, Carmen Carlisle, stepped forward with damning evidence of the mayor's misconduct. For 2 years, Carlisle had a front-row seat to Henyard's alleged financial abuses, witnessing firsthand how she treated Dalton's budget as her personal piggy bank. Initially silent, Carlisle ultimately became the key whistleblower in the case, handing over a trove of receipts and documents to federal authorities. Her testimony has been a bombshell, exposing the extent of Henyard's financial mismanagement and the brazen steps she took to further her own interests at the public's expense. Despite mounting criticism from both residents and public officials, Henyard has shown no signs of backing down, a move that some believe will only worsen the growing scandal. While Dalton's residents struggle to cope with the fallout of her alleged fraud and misconduct, the FBI's investigation, fueled by Carlisle's first-hand account, has intensified. Each new revelation casts an even darker shadow over Henyard's actions in office, further highlighting her apparent disregard for financial responsibility. Even after having her credit card privileges revoked, Henyard went ahead with the lavish $555,000 event, which included performances by Whale and Jay Holiday, among other extravagant expenditures. This shocking display of excess stands in stark contrast to Dalton's dire financial situation, leaving the public reeling. Valor Stubbs' description of the event as a self-promotion scheme resonates with many who feel deeply betrayed by Henyard's misuse of taxpayer money. The town's budget, which should have supported essential services, was instead squandered on the mayor's personal tastes and lavish lifestyle. The decision to host such an extravagant event for only a small group underscores the disconnect between Henyard's priorities and the needs of Dalton's residents, who have been struggling to maintain even basic services. As the investigation continues, Henyard's former aide, Carmen Carlisle, has emerged as a key figure in the case. Carlisle's testimony has provided investigators with vital insights into Henyard's spending habits and her apparent disregard for the public's well-being. According to Carlisle, Henyard not only misappropriated funds, but also used her position to promote her own career and public image. Carlisle's whistleblowing has been instrumental in exposing the extent of Henyard's misconduct. Carmen Carlisle's testimony has shed light on the full scope of Henyard's actions, leading to the discovery of receipts that document her financial dealings over the years. As more details of her alleged misconduct come to light, the community's mistrust of Henyard has only deepened. Critics, including former trustee Valor Stubbs, have pointed out the stark contrast between Henyard's extravagant spending and the low attendance at her events. They argue that her actions reflect blatant financial mismanagement that has worsened Dalton's already fragile economy. Henyard's disregard for the town's financial well-being, coupled with her self-promotion, has made it harder for residents to trust their leadership. Despite growing criticism and the ongoing FBI investigation, Henyard has shown no signs of backing down. Some believe her defiance will only intensify the scandal, especially as more information about her financial misdeeds continues to surface. The FBI's investigation, now strengthened by Carlisle's first-hand testimony, has placed Henyard at the center of scrutiny. Federal agents are focusing on uncovering the full extent of her misuse of public funds, including her lavish trips, excessive security detail, and questionable business dealings. They are also investigating her charitable efforts, which, according to reports, may have served more as a vehicle for self-promotion than genuine community service. The FBI's involvement in the case marks a crucial turning point in the investigation, signaling the agency's commitment to uncovering every dollar that was misused during Henyard's time in office. For the citizens of Dalton, this response has been long overdue, coming after years of calls for transparency and accountability. Activists like Brittany Norwood have been vocal about the need for a thorough investigation, and the FBI's intervention is seen as an essential step in addressing the town's financial crisis and holding Henyard accountable for her actions. Henyard's downfall continues to unfold. Dalton residents are left to cope with the devastating consequences of her actions. The town has been rocked by scandal, and many are struggling to understand how their leader could have been so reckless with public funds. Some have compared the situation to a reality TV show, where Henyard portrayed herself as a glamorous, larger-than-life figure, while the town's financial reality crumbled around her. Yet despite the mounting evidence and public outrage, Henyard has continued to act as if nothing has changed, maintaining her image as a powerful and untouchable leader. Despite the federal agents reportedly using advanced surveillance techniques to track her and her political allies, Henyard has continued to present herself as a confident and self-assured leader. The stark contrast between her public persona and the financial catastrophe she caused has left many locals frustrated and confused. The situation in Dalton has taken on an increasingly surreal quality, with the mayor seemingly ignoring the growing calls for accountability and transparency. As residents watch in dismay, their once thriving community teeters on the brink of financial collapse, yet Henyard presses on with her image of business as usual. However, the mounting pressure from federal investigators and the public's rising frustration may soon force Henyard to confront the reality of her actions. When she finally turned herself in to the FBI, it sent shockwaves through Dalton. One moment, she was carrying on with her daily activities, seemingly unaffected by the growing storm, and the next, she was facing the consequences of her years of misconduct.